My name is Paula Tursi, and I'm here to talk to you about limitless living. And I'm interested to see how tonight goes because I think we have different ideas even about what limitless living really means. Um, I think there's a lot of hype about limitless living, um, and that you can have the world in a platter with very little work. And that's not what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about the way we literally get to have an experience of what I have always felt to be divinity. um, I don't think that we were ever put on this planet to feel contraction, right? It's part of the experience, but it's not the totality of the experience. um, this feeling of never being or having enough is a little bit of an epidemic. And so there are things that are truly meant for us, and then there are things that we're told we're supposed to have. And what's the difference between the two? And how do I stay focused on what really is right for me? So, so there are a couple of steps to this, but it's not magic, right? It really is grounded in some reality. And I'm going to share an experience of my own, although I have many. This one happens to be the one that's closest to my heart. So I was midlife. I think I was 45, 46 years old, and a light bulb went off on my head and said, it's time for me to have a child. Well, clearly it was beyond time for me to have a child. I had waited a little bit too long. We never understand, but this happens on all my talks. So you'll see all kinds of things popping up. It was beyond my time to have a child, but it overtook me that this is something that I really wanted to have. What a huge endeavor at that point, seemingly impossible. But you might find that a little 10-year-old boy comes running through this room. So I'll give you the punchline at the end. I should warn you about him. Um, and so I went through a series of steps, spiritual steps for me, that actually got me where I needed to go. And I did wind up having my son at 50. And these are truly the steps that I used, although I didn't actually know that that's what was happening. And I'm going to go ahead and share these in the chat just so you have like just something to take a look at if you want. There you go. Again, they are not magical steps, but they're really about changing our mindset. So first, we have to understand, what is limitless living? Like, what does that mean? Because most of the time we live within limits and we don't really recognize that. And so limitless living, the best way I can explain it is that there is a bubble that you live within. All the things that you can have, whatever it is that's in your life right now, that's where you feel limitless. Of course, I can have A, B, or C, whatever that is for you. But there's something that lives outside of that bubble, right outside of the membrane of that bubble. And that's the thing that you believe that you can't have. We use the same amount of energy. I'm going to keep my hands down to see if I make it stop. We use the same amount of energy to create what we have. It's the same energy to create what we want. So then what is the difference? Why don't I get what it is that I want? It's only a thought. It is a belief system, period. If you believed that you could have it, it would be inside your bubble. But something inside of you says no. And I had a really strong belief system about having children. I thought, not for me. I'm not be a good mom. I'm not going to find the right partner. All the things that kept me in this negative mind frame. And I just kept doing other things, and without focusing on what it was that I really wanted. So it was clearly outside of my bubble. We're going to talk a little bit about what creates that thought. But what I'd like to do right now, if you're willing, is I want you to go to the chat and share with everyone 3 things that are inside your bubble. and 3 things that are not. It's going to take a minute, but it's important. And I want you to read people's responses. 3 things that are inside your bubble. Obviously, not that I can make a piece of toast, right? But things that you have done that seemed, oh, yeah, I could do that. That's something that happens in my life. And 3 things that don't happen in your life. Yeah. You're just coming in. I see a lot of faces showing up. We're in the middle of an exercise. That's why there's silence. And we're talking, obviously, about limitless living. And I'm asking everyone to put into the chat 3 things that happen pretty regularly, pretty easily in your life, things that you have easily achieved, and 3 things that you haven't. You're going to share that in the chat. And we're going to probably have a few moments for people to actually get there. As things start to come through, please read other people's chats. We were mentioning earlier on that what limitless living is just the difference between the thought that I can and the thought that I can't. There's certain things that fall in the realm of, yeah, I do that. That's easy for me. Yeah. And then there's a thought that tells you that there's this other thing that lives outside of that realm. And we use the same energy to create everything. So if that's true, which it is, you have everything you need to create anything that you want. But there is a thought in your way. There we go. Okay. And they're rolling in. So some people's lists are longer than others. As you look at other people's lists, and we're going to label them what I can do and what I can't do, so it's really clear. You're going to look on that list and say, hey, look at that list. I can do all the things on that list. Those are easy for me, but they're not for somebody else, right? That's the key here. Oh, things that other people are like, oh my God, I wish you're already doing, and vice versa, right? It goes back and forth. No one here is not capable. There's just that which lives outside of our bubble. And for someone else, it lives inside of their bubble. No one is saying that I want to go to Mars, even though you could these days. It's a possibility, right? You're saying pretty normal things, right? My thing was I wanted to have a baby. That was a pretty normal thing. I was a little older, but what I really wanted was to be a mom. That changed the dynamic, right? It didn't have to be in a very precise way. I wanted to be a mom. There are billions of moms on the planet. I wasn't trying to do something out of the ordinary, but for me, it was very out of the ordinary. Some people that I've spoken to, they want to buy a house. Well, that's the American dream. Lots of people buy houses, but I can't buy a house because it's outside, right? It's something that happens for other people. I can't get healthy. I want to be healthy. I want to feel a certain way in my body. That's true for some people, right? Some people here are total fitness people, and other people, it's outside the bubble. But we all have the same energy, and we were given a story, a no story that says we cannot have it. And it's really true that you were given this story. You weren't born with a no story. You were born with a big fat yes story. As kids, as I see with my own son, like life is limitless. He doesn't actually see limitations in his life. He's like, Yeah, I can jump off high buildings until, of course, he hurts his knee, right? I can do just about anything because no one yet has told him he can't. I do see him presently contracting because the world's starting to happen to him. I'm reading some of your, yeah, I love these. Yeah. Because look at how human we are. As we read these and go back and read them, we see how human, what the things that we want are so dear, right? Simple things. I want love. I want health. I want to feel financially stable, right? None of us are asking anything extraordinary. And so we deserve these things and they're really possible for us. Except again, they're living outside. And so our no story is coming from somewhere in our past. It may very well have been the way that your parents lived. There was a big no story there for you. It may very well have been an experience that you had where you tried something and the feedback was not so positive. And so you decided that that was not going to be right for you. You just made a thought decision. That's how it happened. I promise you that that is how it works. And so we want to get to the root of that. We want to understand what our no story is. And so I call that facing the enemy. We want to know what is the no story and what are the words that I use to support the no story that I continuously repeat to myself. Mine were, I'm too old. I'm not going to be a great mom. My ship has sailed, right? These were my no stories. This is just not going to be possible for me. And I just kept reiterating those stories in my head and waiting longer and longer and longer and longer. I don't have the right partner. Well, you can still be a mom without the right partner, right? So these were the stories that I told myself that kept my son literally outside of the bubble. And one day I woke up and I said, that's not going to be true for me. But I had to get to know where my no story came from. So I'm going to take you right now through a little journey. We're going to get a very small taste of a hypno-meditation. Some of you I can see are in strange places, so you'll do the best you can. But we're going to try to regress a little bit and remember that time where we heard or felt or experienced a no. Okay, so let's go ahead and find a comfortable seat. And we usually start with a gazing point. So anything that's in your space that is still, and that you can place your eyes on, and you're not staring at it. You're kind of receiving it. You're taking it in. You're noticing it. You're even getting a little curious about it. At some point, you'll begin to fall more present with this gazing point. Things will start to slow down just a little. You'll be aware that you're aware of the gazing point. And that awareness will come from a stillness inside of you. To take a slow and deep inhalation. And as you exhale, just relax your muscles and bones. Inhale again. And as you exhale, feel yourself in this space. Notice the walls around you and you somehow in the center of this space. And then take another inhale. And as you exhale this time, you'll close your eyes and land in the center of your heart. In the center of your body. And this is where your no story lives, somewhere in your body as a memory that's wired in your nervous system. And every time you come up against something that reminds you of this memory, the no story shows up with all the reasons why you cannot. But this didn't just start happening. This no story came to you a long time ago. And if you feel safe and if you're willing, I'd like you to go back in time. We're going to just start 20. You're going to have just memories that come up for you. You don't have to think hard. They're just going to show up for you. And you'll know when your no story arrives. Maybe you were 19. The point where you felt safe and then you didn't. 18. 17. Finding your way back to 16. Or 15. Or 14. Maybe you were 13 or 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, even 1. If you found your experience visualizing a younger version of yourself, so free in life, curious, excited, and then something happens and you feel that block, that it isn't all possible for you. Begin to develop an understanding about yourself based on a single experience. And in that moment, you shrink from the world. You become more hesitant. You label yourself. Decide that this is your new truth. And maybe this was an aggressive act or something very innocent, but it still touched you in a very deep way. It comes from a younger time when we're not so clear about the world and how it works. We are so willing to believe this no story. And over the years, this singular incident begins to create a way of life that has phrases that you tell yourself over and again. They are not expansive phrases. They are limited beliefs. What is not okay, what you aren't capable of, what is not right for you. Give yourself permission to get in touch with that now. Hear those phrases in this safe place of discovery without judging them. Just let them come up with understanding, with curiosity, and with all the love in your heart. Take a few more breaths. And if this was a particularly painful time for you, know that you're safe here with us. And I thank you for taking that journey. But as you're ready, then go ahead and open your eyes. And if there is a phrase that came to you that you want to share in the chat, you can do that. But definitely put them down on paper for yourself. They're important. They are ways that you govern your life. I'm reading one now. Not good at English. Right? That is something we tell ourselves. We just tell ourselves that that's not really true. And does it really matter? Right? Maybe your English isn't perfect, but why does it matter? Right? So the statement can be actually true, but who does it matter to, right? There's the judgment within the statement that also stops us in our seat. Yeah. Stops us from moving into a life of abundance. I believe in my heart and in my experience and in all the spiritual work that I have done over my 60 years on this planet, that we were meant to live a life of abundance, which doesn't mean you have a million things, right? It doesn't mean that you can buy whatever you want. It means that you feel full in your heart and you have what you need and you have what's important to you. So when someone says you're going to live a life of abundance and you're going to get millions of dollars, well, you might, and that's okay too. But if that's your aspiration, you're not on the right call. Because what I'm wanting for all of us is to finally feel at peace, to finally feel like we are enough. That's what's robbing us of being able to live limitlessly, that we don't believe we're enough, that we have maybe a bigger outside of the bubble list than an inside the bubble list, because there is a lack of worth here. I don't think I'm worthy. And so I need a lot of things from Amazon or wherever you purchase to at some point feel like I'm okay. And that's not what we're going for. We're going to know that with nothing at all, we're pretty spectacular. And anything that we get is an incredible gift. That said, there are projects in this world that we want to achieve. And so I am going to give them to you in steps because I've been told that steps are very helpful for people. I don't live my life in steps. I live my life in kind of metaphor, but I'm going to hand them to you in steps so that you can see how this all unfolds for your life. So far, you know what's inside your bubble, what you're capable of doing. what's outside your bubble, right outside the membrane. It's not far outside, it's a thought away. And you, hopefully, some of you are in touch with your no statements, those phrases, right? The story, and then the thing you told yourself. These are kind of crucial things to be in touch with in your life, to be self-examined, but they're also crucial things for you to start to know about yourself so you can begin to live limitlessly. So the first thing that's really important, because a lot of this stuff, as I mentioned earlier, is just how you got wired. You got wired in, we say that some traumas are big T's and some traumas are little T's, but an experience in your life where you just said no, and you split, and you decided to believe that about yourself, right? So instead of being wired toward abundance, you got wired toward contraction. So we have to start to kind of rewire the system. And so the best way that I have been able to do that is to always stay in touch with what I have gratitude for. I hate gratitude lists. I hate them. No need to do them, because you're just writing a list, right? Gratitude is a portal. It's an energy that you feel. So oftentimes, most days, there's something that touches me to the point of tears, that I'm like so blessed that I have this thing in my life. And they're really simple things. And none of them ever cost any money. Usually they're the people in my home. Yeah. Or the beauty of the environment that I'm in. Really simple things, but they make me feel abundant. I feel limitless when I'm around it. Like, I am so full right now. I'm then starting from a really good place, right? So maybe have this project that I want to take on. And so when I was working on trying to have a baby, I had to say to myself, I have a really great life. I have really great friends. I have an amazing family. I'm really good. I do nice things for people. So I wasn't in this like, not for me, no, this is, I'm not worthy place. It was like, I've got really good things, and I just want more really good things in my life that will make me feel happy and more connected. And that would, it turned out to be my son. So when we're in that space of gratitude, it makes us feel capable. We see what we've created, all those things that are inside the bubble. I've made all this already. How far could that be for me? And I'm resilient. You must know what you want. So people come to me in my private practice, and they're like, I just, life is. I'm like, well, what do you want? Where do you want to go with this? And they don't have any idea, and so that's hard, and that's a whole nother workshop. But for this one, you kind of have to know what it is that you want in front of you, right? And I don't care how big it is, because we're going to break it into parts anyhow. But if you don't know where you're going, you can't really get there. How is that possible? It's just obvious, right? If I don't know where I'm going, there may be many reasons why you can't know where you're going. You could be, your no story could be so big that you can't imagine, you can't daydream in that way. But if you can, that's really important. And when you know where you're going, you need to daydream about it, because daydreaming is rehearsal. My mind doesn't know the difference between a daydream and a life experience. In my cells, it all registers the same way. So if I can imagine myself over and over and over again having an experience that I want in my life, when I get to the finish line, it doesn't feel overwhelming. It just feels like the next step. So when I was trying to have my son, I didn't just go straight to momhood, right? Each little step I had to daydream about. Like, I had to go to the doctor and see if my body could do it, right? So I thought about that for a while before I actually did it. Then I had to go, and my body wasn't going to do it on its own. I was older, right? So then I had to kind of go and do another thing. So I sat with these experiences one by one, and allowed myself to daydream parts, and of course the whole story, so that it felt so real to me. It just felt almost impossible that it wouldn't happen, because I daydreamed about it so much, not from a place of lack, but from a place of excitement. We are energy. So remember what I said, the difference between what you have and what you don't have is a thought. And what you've created, that same energy is the same energy you're going to use, the exact same energy you're going to use to create what you don't have. All we are is energy. So if my energy is feeling really excited, then that's going to open my bubble a lot more. And remember, my goal was realistic. I wanted to be a mom, right? I didn't say I had to have a baby in my own body. I did, but I didn't say, like, I didn't put unrealistic limits on myself. What was most important to me is that I wanted to be a mom. So as I'm daydreaming, it's rewiring me. It's rewiring me. It's rewiring me. So these things are not so foreign anymore, right? They're like, I think about it every day in the most positive way. I'm kind of like you're going on a trip and you're getting excited about where you're going. That's the kind of energy you need to bring to this. No pour me energy, because that is contraction. Pour me energy is lack, lack, lack. You can't create in lack. It just doesn't work. It's not how the planet works. I'm not talking about God. I'm not like, this is not mystical. It's any science book you'll read will tell you, right? You can't create in lack. This planet is constantly rejuvenating because it's a planet of abundance. You are part of the planet. You rejuvenate, right? Your cells rejuvenate all the time. That's what's going on here. And when we can start to understand that, we're going to be in really, really good shape. Okay. Know your enemy. So in knowing your enemy, you have to know your no phrases. You have to get really intimate with them, because they come up and they're insidious. When they come up, most of the time, what we do with them is we kick the can. Yeah. Oh God, now I'm always thinking I'm not good enough. What's wrong with me? I can't, what's wrong with me? I can't, why do I keep having that phrase? But why did that, right? Now we're judging it. Now, that no phrase came from a trauma. Big, small, whatever it was, it came from a trauma. A trauma is a shift in your nervous system from rest and restore to fight and flight, contraction. So when the no phrase comes up, I'm in fight or flight. If I then kick the can, I'm more in fight or flight. When I say love, all the love in your heart, it's nice. And we do want to hear that. And, and I like to think like that. But I'm also asking you to shift your nervous system. When I can understand, and when I can forgive, and when I can feel love in a moment of contraction, the contraction must dissolve. If I do that over and over again, this self-love thing is not corny, although it can be. It's really useful, because if I can turn on the love, I turn on the rest and restore, and I heal. And that's what we're talking about here. Healing the no story. So it becomes, of course, why not? When we go back as an adult with our executive functioning to the story that we were told, usually when we didn't have a solid executive functioning going on in our brain, we look back and we go, oh my God, that little boy that was 8 told me I was ugly, and now I've decided to believe it my whole life. That's crazy. Literally, I had a client who came to me and, like, she was told on the playground something about her body that never erased until we went back into hypnosis, recognized why she thought that about herself, and realized it was from some 7-year-old boy who didn't even know what he was talking about. He was literally talking about a piece of anatomy he had never even seen before. So when we can go back, or if it was more egregious than that, these situations, when we can see them for what they are and who said them and why they said them or why they made us feel that way, that's their fear, not yours. you give it back to them. That's their story to heal. You just were given it, right? You just inherited it, and you have the right to give it back because it is not yours. If you carry it, I guarantee you're going to hand it to someone else. But if you face it and you love it and you understand both you and that person with all the love in your heart, you don't get to carry it anymore and you don't get to give it. That's really crucial. And for me in this work, so that we don't keep passing on these contracted lifestyle. How are we doing so far? Yeah, making sense? Okay, good. So that's knowing your enemy. This is so important. This is number 9. And this to me was probably the most healing thing. When I could see all the abundance around me. When we're in a bad state of mind, we see the world in lack. We turn on the TV and we say things like, this planet's a mess. Oh my God, we're going to hell in a handbag. This thing and everything's falling apart. Yeah, that's not true. That's just the channel you're watching. As many bad things as many good things happen, right? If we look back, if we go back a couple of 100 years, it was a whole lot worse. My son was going to the dentist and I was explaining to him that at some point people had wooden teeth. We are doing better than we were during the wooden teeth time, right? It's the truth, right? Look at, we were talking about, I had a client this morning, we were talking about parenting. And I was like, well, when I grew up, it was the difference between the belt and the spoon. That was parenting. Spoon was compassion, belt was not. That's how I grew up. Now, we rear our children really differently. This is a much more gentle world. Is it perfect? No. Are horrible things still happening? Yes. But we are making progress all the time. Yet we prefer to feed the negativity, which means we are part of the negative vibration. Every time you feed the negativity by reiterating it, worrying about it, getting all caught up in it, you are using that energy to feed that. You can just as easily turn and think about all the positive things and feed the positivity. That is not Pollyanna. It is just using your energy to be part of a team that is making positive shifts instead of worrying, complaining, perseverating, and kicking the can. These are our choices in life. Yeah. This will change your field dramatically. When you can go outside and see nature and understand what's really happening here, how perfect it is, you will then also understand yourself as perfect. When you see the abundance around you, I live in 2 places. I live in the Catskills in the mountains, which are incredibly gorgeous. Any time of year I go out and I can't, the majesty of it is so amazing. The abundance that exists in nature here is so amazing. I feel that in my body, but I also live in New York City and it's a different kind of abundance there. If I'm thinking like, oh, how are you going to do anything? Like, oh my God, I can't create anything. I can't make my business work. I can't. All there is industry there. All there is money there. All there is possibility there. I just have to pay attention to that. And that's what I start to tap into. When I contract, I live in a world of contraction. When I look at what's really going on, everything is always regenerating itself. So can I. So whatever I put my mind to can really be part of that vibration. It comes into that field. So that one's always been so important to me. It also, I'm not going to leave that yet. It also reminds me that our lives are supposed to be good. And there is a lie that we were told that it's about suffering. It's about it all being hard. And this often comes from religion, right? But I don't think that we were born to suffer. I think we were really born to look around this planet and feel the joy. And almost if there's a sin, it's the sin of not experiencing that, living so much in our head that we don't recognize all the gifts we're given every day. We go right back to gratitude. This changes how your system functions, how you are engaged with the world. Now, I know a lot of what I'm saying, some of you are like, she doesn't know my life. I will tell you, you don't know mine either. And from where I came, this is a big, big conversation. It didn't start out with a lot. I started out with very little and super, super obviously crazy parents. I told you about the spoon and the belt. So I didn't start out like this, but I stumbled on this and I realized this is the truth. This is actually the truth. And that's why no matter how many people show up on my calls, I share it because I know that it works. And I want everybody to have this experience, because the more of us that have this experience, the more of us have this experience. We are just energy. So I am building, in my mind, this big, beautiful pot of positivity, and that will shift the planet in all the right ways. Okay. List the steps to your dream. So I read a bunch of different things. People want businesses, they want health, they want relationships, they want all kinds of things. But everything is a series of steps. If I just say, I want the final result, it's going to feel way too big. I'm not going to do it. And I didn't most of the time. I'm like, oh, I can't do it. And then I finally sat myself down and said, okay, the first thing you're going to do is go to the doctor. Just get your body checked. That's all you have to do. No more than that, Paula. Okay, did that. Now my next step. I'm going to go get this test. Okay, did that. Now my next step. Now my next step. I couldn't go to the end of this because I would have collapsed, right? I just kept doing one step at a time because that was what was manageable for me. And I knew what the step was. I also talked to other people who'd done it. So they normalized it for me. Whatever it is, whatever you're thinking of someone has done, allow them to normalize it for you so it doesn't seem out of what was your process? How did you get there? And now people call me all the time. Did you have a baby at 50? And I tell them, I tell anybody, and I want to share that story because it was just a series of steps and it wasn't so scary at the end of the day. So we break it down and we realize that 100 small steps equals one amazing achievement, whatever it is. It's not this. It's all the little things you do to get there. And so take that time with all the love in your heart, with curiosity, with excitement, and start to make your list. Why not? If you do not do it today, you will come back in 6 months, a year, 6 years, having the same conversation. So anything that has come to you means it's yours. There's a wonderful book by Elizabeth Gilbert called Big Magic. And if you haven't read it yet, it's such a wonderful, wonderful book. It's such an inspiring book. But she talks about that if it's coming to your mind, it's there for you to manifest. So you might as well just do it, because if not, she's like, it's a little spirit and it'll go to someone else, right? But I don't know if that's true, but I know that if you don't get started, it will never happen. As I mentioned, on the path, you have to allow the idea to evolve and change. So for me, I had started out wanting a kid with a particular person. That did not work out, but it did not derail me. I was like, okay, it might not be with you, but what my goal was is to be a mom. And I did love this man very much, but for him, it wasn't part of his journey. So I get it. That's okay. And it always winds up better than you think, because the father of my son now I love dearly, and we're perfectly suited for each other. And we're happy. We're both really happy to be parents of this amazing boy. And so I allowed it to change in the middle. I mean, I actually did start with, I want, everything has to be all just like this. But when I changed it to, what is it that I really want? To be a mom. Okay. Now there's so many ways. I went down the road of adoption. I went down all the different roads until I got what it was that I really wanted. And I've done this in so many ways in my life, so many things. It has always been a series of things that came from a place of joy and excitement and possibility. And it is so there for you too, because it's just a little bit of a thought away. Okay, I've spoken for, it feels like a very long time, and I am really wanting, yeah, the more I learn about universal abundance and vibration, it seems like religion is used to us, to keeping us suppressed. Growing up Catholic, I did not get the message you are saying. I'm not saying anything about Catholicism, but I have said that we have gotten messages, right, that are really contrary to what I think is the truth. I think there is a lie that we're trying to live outside of now, which is that we are good, we are not sinful people, and we are really meant to have beautiful things and a lovely life. That is what we were meant to do here, not to suffer. Okay, so I would love to take questions, and I prefer not to have to read them. So if you want, just raise your hand or come off, or there's a lot of you, so I can't, I think, see everybody, but no. Sometimes you're shy, sometimes nobody, nothing. Okay, a little surprise. Um, I'll give it another second. Would you prefer to write your question? That's okay too. Mhm. I'm reading your posts. Mhm. First question I have is do how do you find yourself again? How do you find yourself again? If you've been down the road of being kind of negative and lost. Um, mm, so there's something called mirror neurons, right? And so what we are near, we start to reflect. And that's kind of why we start with the gazing point, right? That stillness, I start to recognize that there's actually stillness in me, right? If I'm seeing motion, then I feel the motion in me. So there's a lot of this reflecting thing that happens. Um, when many years ago, I was about 20, and I wanted to be I was just fascinated by yoga. I didn't even know what it was. I was living in the city. I walked down the street. There was an ashram there. I'm like, who are these amazing people in Peach? I want to know them. They seem like they have something magical happening. And I knew nothing about it. It was like so foreign for me. And I put myself in there, and I volunteered, and I went there every day because I was so fascinated by them. And I mean, some of you know me, some of you don't. I ran a conscious living and yoga center for 15 years. That was the result of that, right? I needed to be near people that felt like I wanted to feel. And so how do you find yourself again? You go near people that feel right for you. This energy thing is real. So if you're hanging around with people that are feeling contracted and sad and not connected and angry or any of the things, you can't help but feel that, right? That's what you're passing back and forth from one another. But to step out of that and say, like, I just need one person to give me a road out, right? To open a door for me that feels like I can aspire toward. And listen, if you can't find a person, then put on a podcast or read a book, because that helps too. But it's really hard to do it in a stuck environment. There are these studies that say that that we literally live to the capacity of our neighborhood, which means like I'm in this particular neighborhood and I'll probably have the same car, the same income, the same ideas, the same whatever, right? From the people around me. It just makes sense, right? This is who I'm comparing myself to. This is who I'm resonating with. If I don't like that, I need to move to a place that is different than that feels more like I want to feel. And then I grow into that space. So when I'm feeling stuck, I look around me to see, oh, is it stuck energy that I'm in? And that's the problem. And I literally pick myself up and I do something different and I find something that I want to be. But I kind of do it all the time because I keep wanting to grow. So I'm always looking for a place that feels more inspired than I am right now. I hope that was helpful, Mustafa. I'm having to dig up your questions now. Or is this a suggestion to keep people positive? I wouldn't keep people positive. I would keep myself positive. You can't keep people anything. It's not your job to fix or change any human. I'm not sure if that's what you meant, but how to keep yourself positive? Just what I'm saying. You have to be around people that feel positive or places that feel positive. You can't, it's really too hard to do it. Is it possible? Absolutely. People come out of really difficult places. But if you want to make your road easier, find someone to be inspired by and go there. Go ahead, Deb. I miss you, dear. And you know you're on mute, right?
Yeah, I had to find
Okay.
that. What I have been finding is that I have met a few very, very dear friends, but my values have somewhat changed from theirs. Like they seem to be very happy being by themselves amongst each other, and not even each other, just, but I have discovered that I need other people. I need to be around other people. I enjoy other people. Um, and so that break from that old thinking that I thought was good for myself is not good for me. So sometimes you got to find it. It just has to listen to what you're feeling and not ignoring. I have to listen to it and not ignoring it because it's not the way it's always been. Um, and even though, I grew up thinking I didn't deserve friends, and I was different and I was bad and I didn't deserve anything, but I'm I'm a little bit turning and twisting and allowing me to feel better about the things I do deserve and the things I like. I can like different things and even my best friends. Um, so that's kind of, for me, that seems to be a kind of a lesson that I'm working with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Deb. Yeah, I mean, I feel like you've come such a long way with that, right? And that's I think is the beauty of all the work you're doing, the work we've done together. That when we're in a silo, right? We don't realize that to say that like I don't deserve anything, like what we would be here not to deserve things. Now, that's a mindset that we inherit, right? And it's not the truth, right? And my heart bleeds for that who thought that about themselves, because it's not why we're here. We all deserve love and health and longevity and all the important things, right? All the important things and friendship. That's why we were put here. And so things happen, these traumas are real, and they derail us, right? And sometimes we get to we take on other people's traumas, right? This legacy story is really, it is very true. It could come from a country, it could come from a family, and we just keep carrying it forward unless we decide to be a little more self-examined and say, hey, what do you think about that, that I don't deserve anything? Does that make sense to you? Because I've been rolling that around in my head for a while, and I would always say to you, not to me, it doesn't make sense to me. You deserve everything, right? And why wouldn't
And
you?
it's okay to be different, because to me, being different caused an awful lot of bullying and misery my whole life. But I can choose my path, and I can be different from other people, even people I love and love and respect me. Um, but I can have my own. I could be different and not be bad, or it's a very hard lesson, I think, for me to learn that, um, like, being different because I want to do that thing is okay.
Mm.
You know.
And isn't that how um, genius comes about, creativity comes about, right? If we all just did the same thing, how would anything wonderful get created? Because it's a different thinker that created the thing, right? Not this, we all have to wear the same clothes, feel the same feelings, think the same things. Heaven forbid. And this current generation is really showing us that, right? They're like, anything goes. And that's really beautiful, right? They're like, I can wear and dress and be how I want. Um, and in that, I can see we have teenagers too in our life, and I can see the conformity and the difference, but because we're still human. But yes, yes, please be different. Please be uniquely who you are, because that's what makes you super beautiful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Any last thoughts or questions?
I have a quick question, if
Yes.
you can hear me. Um,
Uh-huh.
I find that I get the feeling that I'm like loyal to my suffering, that I almost feel like a lot of comfort in my unhappiness. And I want to hear your advice on that.
Yes, we do. Because it is small, like that small little comfortable room, right? I don't have to do anything bold in my unhappiness. I just have to be unhappy. And I've been unhappy for a long time, and I know how to do that. And I'm quite an expert at being unhappy. So I'm safe here. What I'm suggesting that you do is something different, and that's scary, right? And we absolutely find deep comfort in the small boxes, but that's misery. And some people do choose that, and that's again their choice. But all I can ever say is that it's worth gathering the courage to look over and see what else might be there for you, because it's miraculous, and we want to stay safe and in the known, because right, for all the obvious reasons. But we just have to get a little courage to see what it feels like to do something a little differently, to see ourselves in the world a little differently. And once we get a taste of it, we're going to want more and more of it. But it takes a little bit, right? It takes a little bit. We go back and forth. Oh, I took a couple of steps forward. Oh, I got to run on back because I got to touch base again, right? But when you're on the path, remember it's 100 steps, right? That get you to the big thing. If what the big thing for you is just happiness, then it's going to take 100 steps to do that too. But it's one step at a time.
Thanks for your answer.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay,
Hello?
my dears. Oh, yeah. Hi.
Hi, Paula. Sorry. Question in regard to that. You did say take it one step at a time. Um, what if everything is coming at once?
It could be, but you still can only do one thing at a time,
But
right?
100%. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know, I guess when you try to put, I mean, when it all comes at once and you try to do it one thing at a time, but it just keeps continuing to pile up. That's where the stuck moment is. So that's where, like,
Mhm.
so I have that problem of trying to resolve one thing, but when I resolve one thing, and I know it's probably um everything goes in steps, obviously. But I
Mhm.
resolve one thing and then another thing pops up.
Mm. So I might say it's Mustafa, right? I
Yes.
might say that you're probably trying to solve for the wrong thing, right? Like you might be trying to deal with all the problems with, but there's a bigger thing at hand that's creating all the chaos, and that's the thing you have to tackle. Not all the chaos, but
Hmm.
why the chaos is being created to begin with. What you're agreeing to allow the chaos to continue. That's kind of the thing I would be tackling.
Got it. So yeah, I think
Even if it's good chaos, it's still like that's not a healthy way to live.
what do you mean by that?
Like even if all the things that are happening to me I really want,
Uh-huh.
right? It's still not good because we
Oh
can't
yes.
we're not yeah. So
I get
whether
what
it's
you're
a lot
saying.
of negative
Mhm.
chaos or a lot of positive chaos, chaos is still chaos.
Chaos is still chaos at the end of the day. Yes, of course. It could be good chaos, but good chaos doesn't mean it's actually good chaos. It could actually be bad for us. I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
yeah. It keeps us, right? Always chaos keeps us in fight or flight. My
So
goal,
does that also come with self-judgment or judgment and just like worrying about what others would think if you have to take a leap to something that you want to do or feel desired to do?
well, I think we're certainly riddled with judgment, right? We're
Of
judging
course.
ourselves all the time, especially if we're living in our minds. It's healthier to be in our heart. Can't really be judged by your heart, but we live in our minds. You know, there there really was a time in life when we lived in rest and restore and visited fight or flight when something warranted it. Currently, we all live in fight or flight and very occasionally go into rest and restore. So, one of my goals in life is to always point myself to rest and restore. Like, whatever choice I'm making, I'm like, okay, is it going to create more chaos in my life or am I going to get more grounded? Because we always make our best decisions when we're grounded and in our bodies.
Got it. I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, it's been such a pleasure. I am going to tell you this is about what's happening next. Um, we have, and you will get, so what you'll get, I have to look at this stuff because this isn't my world as much. Nika in our corner over there does all this. She does everything actually. But so we have a bundle that you'll get the offer for. I'll just tell you a little bit about it. You're also going to get the recording of this call, so you'll have that. And I hope that you found it useful. And I am truly, I hope that you can feel how honored I am to be able to share this and to have curious minds in front of me. This is my purpose in life. And so when people show up, I get to live out my purpose. So you can't know how grateful I am that you're here. But I hope you do. Okay, so we will be bringing toward you a bundle that has our hypno-meditation for beginners. So I break down in steps what is hypno-meditation and how you can approach that. And so that's part of the bundle. And then there is a series of meditations called Limitless Living that you'll also get. So there's a series of 6 meditations that um, hypno meditations that'll take you more deeply into the process. And I always recommend that you do these meditations more than once, because we're like an onion. We're very, very layered. And so the first time you might be totally blocked and be like, I don't like this at all. Or you might have gotten a little bit. And each time you do it, it layers in a little bit more. We have some diehard hypno-meditation people here tonight as well. And then also in that package is a 55-minute mind-body class. So remember, I did teach yoga for a while. So this is kind of a cross of a lot of different movement experiences in that class. And all of that bundle is coming your way. And that's like $27, as well as the recording for this. Anything I'm forgetting, Nika? Nope. So everything is also nicely placed in the chat if you want to tap on any of that. And we do these once a month. Please join again. I love having you. And you are also, you have our connection. So if some question comes up for you and you're like, I really wish I had asked that, just go ahead and send it. I'm happy to answer anything that's on your mind. Love and light, prosperity, health, and happiness to everyone.